along with Laura Gigliotti, and we manage all the DMA member communities. This is your community, and we're so glad you made time to join us today. This session is another in our series of bi-monthly forums on topics developed by members like you. So we encourage you to send your feedback and your suggestions for future topics. And if you're interested in becoming active on the leadership team, just contact us for more information. And visit our website for lots of useful information and resources for you and your business. And here's a few special announcements for community members. Integrated Marketing Week 15 is taking place in New York City, June 9th and 10th, and community members can take $150 off the registration. It's a terrific lineup of speakers with a keynote from Damon John from Shark Tank. There will also be a special reception for all DMA community members, which we will tell you more about in the weeks ahead. Find out more at imweek.org and just email us for the discount code. And the 2015 Analytic Journal, a must-read for analysts and data practitioners alike, is near completion, and there is limited space for advertising due by April 17th. If your company provides services to assist in advanced analytics, please contact us for more information. And now, here's Amy Beniswitz of listbarnes.com, who's also co-chair of this data community. Amy?
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I just wanted to give you just a high-level view of our community and ways that you can get involved in things that you can do to benefit yourself and your company with the DMA data community. The community allows you to engage with other members through webinars, town halls, and bi-monthly meetings. Helps to increase your visibility as well as your company's, definitely expand your network, help you grow your business. And my favorite is steal good ideas, which you'll be able to do today for sure. And Donna, the next slide. Members of the community are always welcome to join a council other than the Data Council. There are several other communities that can be joined as well, depending on your interests. Members are welcome to contribute to webinars, town halls, and any other activities the community is doing. And there is an email with information that you can send to find out about communities, as well as offer your own questions or suggestions. We have a wonderful webinar today. I'm very excited. We're going to be presenting a webinar Connecting Data, which is connecting data across channels and for many different benefits to marketers. We have some fabulous presenters. Katie Coughlin is a Senior Customer Success Manager at LiveRamp, which is a subsidiary of Axiom Corporation. Katie is the team lead of the LiveRamp Data Customer Team. She supports LiveRamp's tactical data partnerships focusing on consumer and business data application across digital advertising technologies. So basically, she and her company onboard data day in and day out. Donna Hamilton is our other presenter. She is Senior Vice President of Sales and Business for Allant. Donna oversees Allant's audience targeting businesses and spends much of her time in developing strategic relationships with key industry partners. Donna spends time developing Allant's digital programs, their online audiences, and other advertising programs. Donna also helps to extend her customers' reach beyond traditional list services to encompass email, online, mobile, database, and modeling programs. And now I'm happy to turn you over to Donna to start the presentation.
Thank you very much, Amy, and good afternoon, everyone. In today's multi-channel, or as some would say, omni-channel world, there is a proliferation of data being generated offline as well as digitally. So the problem for most marketing organizations is that they're looking at separate data sets of online and offline behavior, and they want to bring that together to leverage it for a better understanding of their prospects and customers so they have a full view of their behaviors across channel. So we do. We have two separate sets that are very complementary. We have our offline data that contains predominantly personally identifiable information, PII, as you probably have come to hear, including name, postal address, email, phone number, the associated transactions for your customers, purchases, dollars spent, and then a whole host of demographic and lifestyle, that information that really describes the consumer. So again, that's all associated typically with PII. But then we have the separate set of data that is generated online, and it's predominantly anonymized data. It's non-PII. And that includes, so much website visits and page views and rich web behavior information about the time on site, number of page views, links that were, engaged and creative, and all sorts of different anonymized behaviors that marketers would love to be able to associate with a true audience and tie ultimately to either their customers or their prospects. So how do they consolidate these behaviors for a more robust marketing and multi-channel communication? How do they bring that together? And that is a term that is being used, you probably have heard, is onboarding, is a way to marry that information. And we're going to talk to you in more detail about how that process is done. So the problem we've addressed, there are two separate sets that really should be brought together to help marketers do a better job in communicating across channel. So how do we bring this online, offline information together? We can do it with an onboarding process. There are companies that offer this service, and we'll get under the hood with regard to that shortly. But what this does is truly expand advertising strategy for marketers. No better time to be a marketer now. I mean, you have customers that are engaging across channel, and you want to be there with them. You want to have your messages orchestrated in the best way to address customers versus prospects, to be able to identify the differences of those two groups as well as the audiences that make up each of them. You can start to target in a concise way with offline efforts such as direct mail or email, or to your retail customers, address those same exact audiences with display or video targeting that would be, anonymized, but you know that you're reaching the same group of customers, consumers, or, prospects. And, send them messages that are complementary and that are tailored for them. And there are multiple data sources that can be combined offline and to be brought online. You can look at your first-party data. It could be your customer files. It could be inactive customers. It could be prospect lists that you use for, again, for direct mail or for email marketing. Transactional data can be combined. And with that, in combination with all that rich, anonymized online behavior, and there's so much of that, all of that together just really creates a very powerful combination, really empowering the marketers for their best messaging and ultimately serving their prospects and customers' needs in the very best way. And we'll talk a little bit more as well, talk quite a bit actually, about measurement and how we can use all this data in a closed-loop attribution model. And Katie's going to talk at length about that. So before we move on to get more specific about how to onboard, I wonder if there are any questions at this point. If you have any, you can type in those questions in the question or chat box with the GoToWebinar screen. So please feel free to do so.
Hi, Donna. I have one quick question. When you onboard, is it at the individual consumer level, or are there other options?
Actually, you can do a few different options. Individual one-to-one mapping is, of course, the most qualified. And, if you can get a large enough universe for that, because you need to have sizable audiences for display targeting, if you can do that with one-to-one, then that's terrific. But oftentimes you have to look to go beyond that and expand the universe to a household level. You can map at address level, and it even goes up to geographic at the, the zip 4. just like you would do targeting offline, you can do similar mapping to the online audiences. So it depends on whether you really want to do that one-to-one for true, like maybe direct response, and that's very important. But oftentimes with branding, it is okay to have a wider net. So if there are no other questions, and that's it, I'm going to move on now to the next page. And Katie, why don't you tell us about some more on why to onboard and how to actually do that.
Yeah, of course. Thanks, Donna. I am going to just address one question that came in, I think, right when you were wrapping up there. So the question from the group was PII captured on a web form. So as folks are clicking on a data asset to try to download them, there's a web form that comes up or a contact us web form. And the question is whether that's considered online or offline data. So that would be considered online data. So that's data that is coming in online via a web page, and people are giving you their information, whether or not that's true information, but they are opting in to give you their information coming in on an online source. I think the biggest differentiator between offline data and online data, offline data occurs in a store, it occurs through catalogs, it's a data set that you're not able to definitively target online. Cool. Great. So let's move on to why to onboard. So I think maybe another differentiator or the thing to express is onboarding. What does that really mean? So onboarding is taking that offline file and making it targetable online. So if you're a major retail store and folks are coming in and they're purchasing online, maybe they have a loyalty card or they're coming into a brick and mortar store, or they're filling out like survey data through a census or survey data through a direct mail, all that information is coming in, usually with PII associated with it, and you're not able to take all that rich data you've received from somebody, or a group of people, I should say, and target them specifically online. So onboarding is taking that offline file and making it available online, and with LiveRamp we do that through web cookies. So, why would you onboard? So again, these databases contain so much wealth of valuable insights, particularly when you're a retail store or you're working at in financial institutions or automotive industries. You have all this information that is not happening offline. If you're a Toyota, you're having people come in to test drive a car, to fill out a credit check. If you're Sephora, people are buying makeup in your stores all the time. If you're a bank, you're doing direct mail. So all of this information that you have with demographic data or transaction data, you're not able to use those what we would call segments or fields to specifically serve a targeted online ad. So when you're able to onboard and bring that data into the online world, you can use it for lookalike modeling. So companies like Donna's company or Amy's company, where they're able to reach into their third-party data set and look at people who have purchased from you before and model out a larger audience for folks who resemble your consumers. CRM retargeting, this is probably our most popular use case. So this is where a CRM file is a client relationship management file. So this is where you're taking your entire offline data set with all that rich pieces of data. We're onboarding it and making it available online, and then you're able to start targeting based off that segment information. And then ad suppression. So if folks how do you optimize your campaign as it's running? As folks are purchasing during your campaign, we can start suppressing them from being able to see an ad and really maximize your ad dollars. Cool. Great, so how do we onboard? And with LiveRamp here, it's a really simple process. We're certainly not the only onboarders out there, but I can go over how we work with customers to get their data files online. So you want to prepare, as a customer, prepare your data files. So what kind of data do you want to be able to target online? Is it gender data, age data, transaction data? So preparing that file inclusive of the PII and being able to create your offline universe to send to LiveRamp. When you're talking on the online space, we are talking about being fully anonymized. So when we say include PII or the personally identifiable information, LiveRamp is only using that PII to match to. So we match on names mapped to postal addresses and or email addresses. Once we're able to use this PII to match to, this PII is stripped from the file and it's siloed. What remains in the file is the segment data plus a LiveRamp anonymized ID, and then and then we're able to take this anonymized ID to back to the segment information, and through our integrations with about 130 plus advertising platforms, we're able to then append cookies for the appropriate platform and distribute it out to their interfaces. So a good example here, again, if you're a retail store, you send us your file, we're mapping to the email addresses, for example, that they're provided. Once we match those email addresses, they're stripped, and then let's say you have transaction data associated with these records. We can onboard that to a platform like a MediaMath or a BlueKai, like your DMP, or a Trade Desk for your DSP, or even a Marin Software if you're doing search attribution. We can send that to whatever platform you're using, and then they're able to take that demographic data and start targeting folks online. And yep, with this one, I'm going to turn it back over to Donna to talk about the benefits of personalizing. Or actually, I'm going to take this one. I apologize, you guys. So why should you personalize? So you want to, again, connect data across all the marketing applications. So if you're serving a consistent message as you direct mail folks, you want to serve that same message as you see them online. I get birthday cards all the time with percentage off at my favorite stores that I have a loyalty card to. That's personalized to me, and it's personalized in an offline fashion. It's really effective if that same message can be personalized to me when I'm online and I'm on Facebook, for example, or I'm on the New York Times and I'm seeing a consistent message. So the ability to connect those two data sources and maximize your campaign dollars. If you're the Gap, for example, and you want to run a campaign for women's jeans, if you serve 1,000 impressions and you're not targeting, you're serving 1,000 impressions to presumably quite a few people who are never going to buy Gap women's jeans. But you are going to hit some people who will buy Gap women's jeans. So if you are able to take maybe transaction history plus demographic data and then serve those same 1,000 impressions to women who have purchased Gap jeans before, you're going to run a much more effective campaign. And when we at LiveRamp work with quite a few brands, quite a few agencies and application partners and data partners, we've seen through our research across various ecosystems about a 26% average increase in conversion rates when you personalize. So personalizing your creative, bringing people to make a purchasing decision. 21% increase in offline sales driven by digital advertising. So again, going back to a Sephora example, I'm a Sephora customer, I often buy in store, but I am being influenced by online ads. And then 36% of in-store retail sales are influenced through online advertising. And then this agency reported statistic, but a 2 to 3 times lift from using the lookalike modeling. So being able to take your best audience of consumers and using a company like Donna's or Amy's to lookalike model out that segment and expand the audience.
Well, thank you, Katie. And we're just going to take it a little step further, but I see a note that someone raised their hand. Is there a question? It just says that Ken Wood raised his hand. I don't know if someone wants to raise a question or not. But, well, we'll continue on until I hear otherwise. What I would like to talk about...
There actually are a few questions that came in, and if you don't mind, I'll just go through one or two now, and then we'll take the rest at the end.
Sure, that sounds great.
The first one is, can you do onboarding at an entity level for B2B?
I think I can take this one. So what I think I understand here is at an entity level, like a VP of sales, for example, and there's one person like that at a company. The answer is yes, if I'm understanding the question right. So with a B2B file, we work with quite a few B2B companies. We would take in, we match to it a little bit differently, and we would work with you on that. But we take in your file, and we can onboard that title information, SIP codes, in cases over a certain number of records, we can onboard company name. We do have privacy rules to ensure that if you're onboarding Katie Coughlin as Senior Customer Success Manager, you're not able to map back any of that demographic data to Katie Coughlin's record. But in most cases, we fit within those privacy rules and we can do an entity level onboarding. The biggest piece when you talk about kind of one-to-one ratios is making sure that there's not an ability to map back that person to PII. So if you had one person at one company with one title, we wouldn't onboard that record because using that demographic data, you'd be able to map it back to that person.
That's great, Katie. Thank you. And the last one for now, how do you manage integrations of first, second, and third-party data without privacy violations?
I can also speak to that one too, and Donna, maybe you can help as well.
Sure.
I know you deal with those different data sources, but from a LiveRamp perspective, in terms of PII, all pieces of PII that we receive before we make it actionable online is used solely for the matching process, and then that PII is stripped from the file before cookies are appended to it. So there's never an instance where the file has PII or a unique identifier that can be mapped back to PII next to cookies, and that's part of the onboarding process. We have our own systems in which we utilize this, and then also with Axiom, they do their matching within what they call the safe haven that preserves this anonymity and privacy. But then, Donna, they're talking about different data sources, and I'm wondering if you can talk about how you mesh those different sources.
Well, I think it also goes to the privacy statements that different companies have on their websites, and if there are match partners involved, because a lot of the way that companies like LiveRamp or Newstar, DataLogix, there are multiple companies that onboard, but if they're using match partners, those match partners also have, if they've identified registrants on their website to ultimately connect, it's because their privacy statements enable them to do that as well. So they would not be doing anything that wasn't compliant with what they have shared with the consumer. And Katie, that's your understanding as well, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think when we talk about onboarding, it's a really sensitive area to put data online about folks. So privacy is always the first and foremost concern. There's quite a few times where we say no and cannot onboard particular segments or particular records. So that's always our top concern, I think, between data companies and media serving companies and onboarding companies alike.
So if there are no more questions at this point, I'm going to move on to execution, which is, extension of talking about how we can personalize with having all this rich data and, really what applications that are now available with these consolidated data sets. And, I think one of the strongest points is identifying your customers versus prospects and being able to treat them differently. As the Gap example, perfect example on that front. Being able to provide, if you know that they're your customers you're targeting with display, you might want to just introduce a new product. You might talk with them differently with that creative versus an inactive customer segment. You might want to offer something special to bring them back in. And a new prospect, maybe there's a low entry rate or a lower price point, some other kind of creative that might attract someone who has not yet engaged with the brand. With search, being able to optimize paid search, you may not want to pay the same for a known customer versus a prospect. You might want to message to them differently because not everyone, even customers don't go directly to your website. They sometimes go through search. You can use the data for site optimization. You want to improve the performance of your site and how it, you have your different images and offerings and placement on your site based on what the audience looks like. The anonymous visitor may look differently than another, and maybe you change up the hero image, for example, to better address, could be that it's females or males have different positioning. And you can also optimize the advertising that you have on your site. If you, in fact, serve third-party ads, you can provide better performance for your advertisers by using the data to better target their ads. And then lastly, offer and creative segmentation, which is used in combination with your display targeting or with the site optimization. But obviously, certain audiences are going to be more responsive to different offers and creative. So I can't reinforce again. I mean, I just think that data is so powerful, and what you can collect online and offline, although strong in and of itself, together really provides so much more of a powerful mix for creating the highly qualified audiences that drive then this personalization and communication. And so even if you're looking at customers versus prospects, they are not all equal in either of those categories. Customers will be then subcategories as well as prospects, and that you'll be able to really segment out by demographics or product purchases to really hone in your message. And again, it's all about making your brand more relevant to the consumers. And detailed reporting, as we have with offline campaigns, you have great detailed reporting with online display and video campaigns. And so in using this rich information, you can track by the different segments of audience that you create with the different offers, different creative shown, but also look at where the better performance is by device type. So you're looking at how well the audience performs desktop, mobile, or tablet. You can look across the top URLs. So here's an example of using that offline information that might really enrich the audience that you target, but the online behaviors and all of that can be optimized in real time to provide the best outcome for the campaign. So it's really a great time for marketers to be creative with their messaging and targeting across channel. And the onboarding just helps to make that all real. Are there any questions at this point? Because we now want to move into measurement and talk about how we can, prove out, some of the stats, such as Katie shared, the improvement for conversion rates and in-store retail sales, et cetera. Any questions at this point?
Yes, Donna, we do have a few questions. The
Great.
first of which, how do you match offline data where you don't have cookies to online data with cookies? And along with that, and what kind of match rates do you find with offline to online?
I'll take the second part of that, but Katie, would you just answer the first part?
Yeah, of course. So the way I can speak to how LiveRamp does it. So LiveRamp has a publisher network of about anywhere from 300 to 400 publishers throughout the year. And we work with these publishers and partner with them to place a LiveRamp pixel on their login pages. So very popular sites where people are authenticating, we call logging in, authenticating numerous times. As folks authenticate and across our publisher network, the LiveRamp pixel is capturing their hashed email address and appending a LiveRamp ID and a LiveRamp browser cookie associated with that user. And what this creates is the LiveRamp publisher pool or cookie pool. And as we receive files that come in with PII, we're able to take that PII, match it within our publisher network with the PII that we have and the LiveRamp IDs and cookie IDs associated with those users. And then we're able, once we have that ID, the LiveRamp ID associated, so when users are matched within our publisher network, we're able to strip the PII from that CRM file and have a LiveRamp ID associated with cookies and the attributes.
So, I mean, you don't need to have a cookie or an IP address on a postal record or a hashed email to onboard. You can onboard an audience that is just postal only or email only. But if you have a combination of both, you're going to have a better match rate. And some onboarding partners actually have better coverage if you have email and better match rates, and some have better with postal. So there are a lot of data providers will actually partner with multiple onboarding companies so that they can maximize their reach. And not all, as I had expressed earlier, the matching also is not identical. Some are more what we call deterministic, like LiveRamp, which is more one-to-one mapping. And then there are others that do a little bit more probabilistic, which involves some modeling, but it does have a wider net. But there's a role for both of those, and so the match rates can be higher. I mean, it can be, if you have two matching partners and you have good coverage on email and postal, you can be matched 70%, maybe more. You know, it depends on the file, but sometimes higher if you have multiple matching partners. If you have one, you may be closer more to like 35, 40%. And then there again, if you have a household level match, well, that will maximize it even more, or if you do some modeling, that maximizes it more yet.
Terrific.
So hopefully that helps answer your questions there.
That's great. Just one last question for now. How does LiveRamp manage cross-device matching deterministically or statistically?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So LiveRamp has a cross-device product. We offer it in two functionalities. So we have a segment cross-device product, and we also have a device graph, which I think is very popular in the industry now. Our bread and butter was 100% onboarding. But as we started getting into the mobile space and being able to not only onboard cookie IDs, we're also able to onboard mobile IDs. And once we got into the mobile space, we realized we did have this cross-device linkage. So LiveRamp can take, with a segment cross-device product, we can take in some cookie IDs. So let's say you gave us 1,000 cookie IDs. LiveRamp can go back into our database, and we can apply or add on all the other BlueKai cookie IDs that are within the same household as the ones that you received, and all the mobile IDs within the same household. And that's how segment cross-device works. It essentially expands your audience by adding in IDs within the same households. And then with the cross-device graph, this is really where what our output is all households, or is on a household linkage, I should say. So household linkage based on household 1 has these 6 cookie IDs and these 4 mobile IDs. Household 2 has 12 cookie IDs and 8 mobile IDs, for example. And we basically provide that mapping back to our customer, linking all those device IDs and cookie IDs together by household. We offer device graph probabilistically and also deterministically. When we talk about probabilistically with cross-device, what it means is our mobile database is the majority of our mobile database is probabilistically mapped with at least 80% certainty off of our deterministic mobile base. So when we provide a probabilistic graph, we're providing in those probabilistic mobile ID mappings. And our deterministic graph does not include that probabilistic mapping on mobile ID. So it's the true one-to-one, you know, Katie Coughlin has this IDFA ID.
So I just want to add, this is like something more rudimentary that maybe wasn't really even mentioned earlier in the presentation, but when we talk about cookies, you know, they're all just associated with devices. So, you know, one individual might have 4 cookies associated with it. A household might, even if there are 3 people in the household, might have 8. You know, it's a multiplier on wherever you're matching, and, you know, that example that Katie just had of mapping the mobile IDs to the cookies just then extends that much more of the reach across all of the devices in the household. Any other questions? We can move on maybe to measurement. Katie, why don't you talk to us about measurement?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think everyone's probably trying to solve the measurement problem, right? I think we all understand the importance of measurement. So people want to understand, marketers want to understand where their best results are occurring from. They want to be able to map back their online activity to their offline activity. They want to, you know, we're talking about onboarding right now, but onboarding is really just a tool in your advertising toolbox. Mm-hmm. So onboarding will get you, take your offline file and make it digitally available, but you're probably also doing retargeting just based on only online activity, direct mail, print ads, even billboard ads. There's all these different ways to reach your audience. So what we do know is that the majority of U.S. sales for retail establishments take place offline. I mean, unless you're truly an e-commerce site, you aren't going to the Amazon store down the street. You're buying online, but you are going to the Sephora, the Gap, the Macy's, and making an in-store purchase. So we know the majority of U.S. sales take place in a brick-and-mortar store, or they take place over the phone or through a catalog order. like we've been talking about, as a theme of this webinar, is the advertising spend is often disconnected from that offline conversion, I should say. And offline campaigns are disconnected from the online efforts. So if you're direct mailing somebody, let's say I get, I keep using the Sephora example because I just received mailings from them this morning, but let's say I received my Sephora mailer and I'm getting $5 off of my next purchase. I may walk into the store down the street, but I also may take that offline advertising tactic and I may make a purchase online. So it's being able to connect from A to B in these siloed sets of data. Great. So I just like this slide. I mean, it really just reiterates what we're saying. But fragmented data is a barrier to insight. You can't truly analyze your campaigns and truly maximize your campaigns unless there's some sort of linkage across the aisle, unless you are informed of who is receiving an online ad or the groups of people who are receiving an online ad versus the groups of people who are receiving offline ads. So if you think about all the different silos of data, of course your transaction files that are happening brick and mortar, email open rates, so people who are opening up an email and maybe clicking through to your website, any kind of TV ads that are being targeted for folks, or money that you're spending with the TV market to reach your audience, mailers, and then on the online side, search keywords. So are people going to your website directly or are they searching for it? And can you use data to start targeting those folks on Google with a more applicable search or ad? Again, the display ad data, mobile ad data, any kind of social data, they really are fragmented and there's no single view of the customer. So in the next slide, LiveRamp thinks about measurement not strictly in 3 different buckets, but I want to talk about the three buckets of measurement that we work with our customers most on. So measurement, onboarding for measurement. So there are attribution platforms such as Convertro or Odometry. There's also DSPs, which are demand-side platforms that not only serve media, but they offer a measurement or attribution product to their service. So we can talk about measurement in terms of onboarding. So we can onboard your targeted file into either one of these attribution platforms or the DSPs for CRM targeting. So this is what we've talked about the entire webinar, where you're taking in your data set and we're going off and targeting those folks online. But there's an additional step here with onboarding for measurement. Following the campaign, you can send us your transaction file as well for the onboarded group into your chosen platform. So there is a linkage of a persistent anonymous ID by the platform when LiveRamp onboards your targeted file. Let's say we're going to onboard it into Odometry. We're onboarding that file into an Odometry ID. That Odometry cannot back that ID back to PII, so it is anonymous. Anonymous, I should say, anonymous back to your file, not anonymous to Odometry. They know those cookie IDs. But we onboard that file into Odometry and they serve the ad. We then receive your transaction file and we onboard that transaction file into Odometry as well, using that Odometry ID as the linkage. And then part of their offering, on a high level, I can't really speak to their offering specifically, but they can give you back an analysis of who they targeted and who transacted based on that anonymous ID being the linkage. Great. So then we also work with matchback reports. So a matchback report from LiveRamp, as we receive your CRM file or your targeted file, LiveRamp can return that file back to you exactly as we receive it with a true-false flag indicating which record was matched. So let's say we matched to 40% of your file and you gave us 1 million records. You would receive your file back with those 400,000 flag, with a true flag, they were matched, and a false flag for the 600,000 that were not matched. And the way that a lot of our customers will use matchback reports is they can say, okay, that 40% of the file that was matched to, presumably they're going to be targeted online. I mean, as long as they log in or they haven't cleared their cookies, they're going to be targeted online in this campaign. But this 60% presumably is not going to see an ad online for us. So we will direct mail them, or we'll email them, or we'll start doing analysis on this file, and with zip codes or zip 4s that have a prevalence of not being matched, we'll take out a print ad or a billboard ad. So it's a tool in your toolbox to reach folks, to know which folks are going to be targeted online, and then be able to reach the offline set through a different method.
Yeah,
And
Katie, if I could just interject.
yeah.
You know, we use this methodology, and also taking an nth of those that did match, like a holdout that we would not want to receive a display campaign, so that we could conceivably compare that then to those that might have received direct mail and display versus those that only got direct mail and did not get display, but were still possibly could have gotten display, right? And this just enables us to prove out that the multi-touch does perform better. Doing the display adds lift to the overall campaign with direct mail. So that's all.
Yeah. Yeah, no, thanks, Donna. It's always nice to have a real-life example of how folks use this. Matchback reports are super popular because it gives you, like Donna, like you said, it gives you so much information around your file. It's no longer this dark box of, you know, which 40% matched or which didn't, you know. Cool. So the third way LiveRamp, I should say, thinks about data linkages, or I should say measurement, is through the linkage of data. So when I talked about that slide that showed all the different data sources that were coming in between online and offline data, we are in a soft launch of a linkage product where we can link those different data sets together using an anonymous ID. So if you think about what you're seeing on the slide here is all your different data sets. So home data, what's blocked out is going to be PII, only used for matching, not onboarded. Any type of data that you viewed on various desktops, on your tablets, on phones, set-top box data, so that TV data, in-store transaction data. So there's all these different data files that are coming in. We can take in each file, and part of our matching process, instead of onboarding this data with a MediaMath ID or a Trade Desk ID or a BlueKai ID, we can take this file and marry it against an anonymous ID that cannot be mapped back to PII, an anonymous encrypted ID. And we can use this anonymous encrypted ID as the linkage between all of your data sources. So if I'm in your onboarding file, and my anonymous encrypted ID would be 123, ID 123, and I'm taking in that data set and I'm being targeted on MediaMath, we can then take in the impression log from MediaMath and see when was ID 123 served an ad. Did she click? I wouldn't know the demographic data. So did that person click? Did that person come in through a Google search page? All of that information that would be collected by your DSP or whomever's serving the advertisement. So there's our second file. And then to keep it simple, let's only keep 3 files here. So the third file would then be the transaction file. Did ID 123 go into a store and convert? And if they did, how much money did that transaction bring to the company? How can we tie back that marketing spend? And let's say we just have those 3 different data files. We can link it with that anonymous ID. That anonymous ID that is applied by LiveRamp is persistent across all 3 files. And then our output is that linkage of data. So you're no longer in a data silo. You're able to see all this data in an anonymous way that is being linked through our ID.
That's great.
Cool. So yeah, yeah, absolutely. You know, so yeah, just to just to wrap up the measurement piece, we think about it in 3 different buckets, but there's certainly many other ways to apply measurement. Those are just the 3 very popular ways in which our customers work with LiveRamp on.
So are there any more questions at this point? We'd be happy to address them.
Yes, Donna, we do have a few more that came in. The first of which, can you tell us how long it takes to perform the matching once you receive our file?
Yeah, so the LiveRamp official SLA is 5 to 7 days. So once we receive your file, let's say that's day 1, and we're able to begin the matching process, we on average come in right around 4 to 5 days, but our official SLA is 5 to 7 days between receiving the file and being able to turn the segments back with cookie data into the whatever platform you chose.
Terrific. And the next question, how does LiveRamp address attribution?
Yeah, so I think maybe that one came in right before the measurement piece, but I think there's the three ways to think about attribution, probably the two most popular for true attribution is going to be onboarding to an attribution platform and letting that platform perform the analysis for you, and LiveRamp just having the ability to bring that data to that platform. And then the second piece would be through our linkage, like I said, our soft launch of our linkage product, where we're taking in the different data sets, we're linking it with an anonymous encrypted ID, and then we're passing that back using that ID as the linkage between all your different data files.
Great, thank you, Katie. A few people have been asking about session slides and a recording. Just so everyone knows, yes, a recording of the presentation will be available. We'll send that out either later today or tomorrow morning, and we'll also be able to provide everybody with a PDF version of all of the PowerPoint slides. So stay tuned for that, and back to you, Donna.
Yeah, I just want to, I think Katie and I both thank you all for attending, and we enjoyed having this webinar, and hopefully you found the information helpful. Feel free to reach out to either of us directly. We'd be happy to help you with any other questions that you might have.
Terrific. Thank you, Donna, and thank you, everyone, for joining us. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks, guys.